and forever my attempt to get a good picture when I'm capturing it. For a minute there, Cable, I thought you were humming. God, what's his name in Die Hard when he's about to cut the cards? He's like, he had a very good Die Hard hum going on there. So
I was going for it was the theme to Hawaii Five O.
Welcome to issue 576 of Geek City Radio. I'm Aaron Durant.
I'm Fianarita.
And I'm Cable Hachitani.
And we have with us our guest, Rev Nat, sipping an ale.
Cheerio, friends. Cheerio.
And he's officially gone bye-bye. He's lost it.
Just first beer of the day, so, you know.
Woohoo! How's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah. I always love the long pause between that. I'm like, am I going to answer honestly or I'm going to give a show answer?
No, it's not that whether or not I want to answer honestly. It's about actually taking like a mental assessment and going like, okay, wait a minute. How do you feel?
Well, just go for it.
Yeah.
Pause.
And considering I have job prospects, pretty good.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Been a while, huh?
Since March.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the advantageous part of me can just be like, well, you got to ride out that whole time on unemployment plus the extension.
Maximum value.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I guess if I really wanted to, I could look at it that way.
Yeah.
They're allegedly going to extend it again now.
Allegedly.
Assuming
I had not heard that.
Like as of today. That's assuming that that the president signs off on it, I guess.
Oh, that was the congressional, the current bill you talked about? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, like either way, like unless they were going to give people like individually more funds, I'm literally like on the last dregs of my allotted funds.
Well, this would be the federal one, so I think I'm not quite sure how it worked. I have until December 26th before PUA runs out.
Yeah, that's mine. That's what I'm on.
Yeah, no, that's when it's supposed to get extended, and so who knows?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see.
For everyone who still needs it. That sounds so smug. I'm sorry.
I know, Miss Money, but I have a job now.
I mean, for the record, it's part-time, so I'll actually be making less than I was making on unemployment.
And probably working twice as hard. So.
Oh, absolutely, because I haven't been doing shit in my house.
That means you can extend your unemployment.
I haven't looked into it yet. I know that it is possible that I could like continue to file claims and at least get partial benefits.
Yes. Because
but
then that will stretch that out further too.
Right. But like I said, I'm on the extension and I'm almost at the 13 weeks and I'm almost at the end of the funds that were available anyway. So I'll look into it, but it's not going to be a huge difference at that point because it would only be partial benefits for a short amount of time.
Well, okay.
Nope. There's that. Woo!
Change is good, though. Change is good. Sometimes it's better than other changes, but
yeah. So here's the thing: is it's an executive assistant position, and that's something I've wanted to be doing for a long time. So, regardless of any long-term outcomes, the one thing that I know for sure is I will have that on paper. Finally, I'll have that experience, and I'll have it in writing, and you can't take that away from me now.
Sounds like you're not feeling great about the company, though. Maybe could you have maybe mentioned that earlier?
No. I'm just outlining it like if you really wanted to look at it in the worst case scenario, it's still a positive outlook. So
yeah, check that box.
Yep.
All right.
I just have that fun thing where I'm just taking a ton of meetings and hoping one of them pays off.
Networking.
Yeah, it's the joy of the freelance life.
Woo!
You know, we're hungry, so much more content. I've got content.
No, not that.
Well, we don't. I mean,
Do you have any different? We were thinking
Right.
of something that was.
but have you worked anything high pressure or like that's got that gets a lot of audience? I'm like, well, I wrote comics for a video game that made $12 billion and had a global release and was published in 18 languages. But yeah, I guess you're wondering if I did something bigger.
I mean, did you look at the stuff that I sent over already?
No.
Yeah, I only
They
worked
did.
for something that made more than every Hollywood movie last year. But sure, no, it's fine. I haven't.
I think I mentioned that already.
Yeah, no, that's always fun.
Hmm.
My favorite is always, do you have something that's not Mexican? Because that's hard to market. Yeah.
Ooh.
That's
Bullshit?
That's a them problem and not a you problem.
Yes, I know.
Hard to market.
Right.
Yeah, you're not a marketer, are you? So.
No, I've never done marketing, never once. Anyway, apart from kvetching, what else are we doing today?
Besides kvetching? Oh boy.
That's
That's the only thing I put
Good night.
down in my agenda today, guys.
Yeah, that's the only thing I was really looking forward to. Like, it's like, well, at least after a long day of work, I can go home and kvetch on camera.
Mhm.
I haven't had a beer in
Three
like
other
a number of days, so this was like kind of like
Are you okay? Is everything okay?
totally fine. Yeah, it's totally fine. Admittedly, I drank too much last time I drank, so it's
You got to hang yourself up to dry every now and then.
just a little taking the steps. Yeah, so
That's why I'm sticking to the sparkling water tonight.
uh
I think I'm still feeling like the Thanksgiving week where it was like, it wasn't daily, but every other day, it was like that cycle of like, way too much. The next day I'm dead. Way too much. The next day I'm dead. A lot of like, but don't do it. That weird thing of like, well, I don't drink during recovery days. And I'm like, well, maybe it's because you're having too many recovery days.
I think yeah, I think I'm more like on a weekly pace.
Right. Just once a week kind of thing.
No, I mean like if I have too much, I'll wait a week. And then,
Oh yeah, that's probably smart.
just to just continue to reaffirm the fact that I'm not an alcoholic. So
Take a sip.
Trying to think the last time I went a whole 7 days in between.
yeah, you should get a job in alcohol. It's like you learn a lot about your own drinking habits when you're.
But do you find yourself that you drink more or less when you're like knee deep in the process and the business side of it? Or is that like, no, I need to drink because fun of
There's definitely those moments. I think there might be more of those moments of gotta get a drink right now than there were in the past. But also I think everybody's different. Everybody, the way they deal with it is super different. And I about 2 years ago, probably ish, I just decided to stop drinking at home. And by and large, I'm at home. I stuck with it really, really well. And that was really liberating for me because the flip side of that coin was kind of like no holds barred when I'm not in the house. And for the job, I found myself sort of having to, or being put in situations where it was important to drink at events or, with people. And but I also wanted to cut down on my drinking a bunch. So I just kind of went cold turkey at home and it worked really, really well. And I really enjoyed it. And I still, by and large, I don't drink too much, but coronavirus has kind of thrown that out of whack because
yeah,
I have had I've had two drinking experience out of the house in a place of a drinking business. I've drank at the park a few times, but in a drinking business only twice since the start of the thing.
Yeah, I think I sat outside at the Horse Brass once, and then outside once at Roscoe's.
Yeah.
But that's been about it. Yeah, it's all been inside.
So since we're kvetching, what about these people with the tents outside of their place of business, and they have a whole tent, and they have walls in the tent, 4 walls, and they have
That's a house.
there, and it's like,
That's a building.
what are you doing?
They're missing the point, and I think the regulations are missing the point too. It's not about being in or outdoors; it's about airflow.
It's about airflow. Yeah, totally.
There seems to be a faction of, well, not a faction, a percentage of people will always follow the letter of the law, even if they don't understand what the outcome is supposed to be. It's like, no, I did all the things that you were supposed to. It's like, yeah, but did you understand why you were doing them? No.
Right. And there's someone like me who never follows the law, but always is a good human. So
right.
Yeah.
But you look at it, it's like, okay, so the end result is we can't have anything where there's like stagnant airflow. Like it has to be open. Cool.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Well, it doesn't help when the people who are writing the letter of the law are not writing it in a way that is clearly outlining why we're doing these things. Like the thing with the curfews.
Mm-hmm.
Like the theory is they don't want people hanging out for prolonged amounts of time, and the way that they think they can do that is if they make bars stop serving alcohol by a certain time, and then everyone's just going to give up and go home. But just setting a curfew doesn't establish that. People who want to drink all day in public will just show up earlier.
And
it's like how England used to close their pubs at 10.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why people were hammered by 9.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or they become private clubs the minute it becomes 10. We're private now.
Yeah, we said that already. The bars are closing at during the summer. The bars would close at 10, and then they lock the locals in, and the door would be closed, and that would be it. And this is no longer an open business; it's a private party.
And I follow some people in the local, in the Portland food industry, who were mad about that more recent wave of lockdowns, and they were no longer going to permit indoor seating for that 2 or 3 week window that they had, and they were complaining and saying that there's no evidence that indoor dining leads to higher risk of exposure. Like, yes, it does. It doesn't really matter it doesn't really matter what kind of building it is or what the business is that happens inside of that building. If you go in a small space together and take your masks off, you're probably going to give it to each other.
Yeah.
Which is hard pressed to explain to people when it's like, oh, we can't go out and dine together. Cool, but you can all still go into a store and shop together.
Yeah, and there's nothing fundamentally different between, poor folks who are standing behind the shop counter and interacting with customers. Versus, maybe you have a bar that has really high ceilings, big space, great airflow, and you keep the door open. That could be a lot safer than, I'm not setting the policy. It's you're screwed any way you look at it.
Yeah.
So
any policy that isn't, freezing rents on homes and business rental spaces alike, and
shut it down,
UBI, anything that isn't that is going to be a flawed policy because it doesn't help enough. It doesn't help the right way.
Yeah, or it helps these people, but not these people, and they're really close to each other. But we're going to draw a line somewhere. And,
like people who are $5 too high to qualify for food stamps.
Yeah, totally.
So they don't get any.
Yeah, so they get nothing because of a $5, over the threshold that's been established, but probably somewhat arbitrary and outdated threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's almost like we're all drinking a bunch right now because we're solving the world's problems right now.
That's right. I know. We could have fixed everything by now.
I wish I had another bottle of champagne now.
Ooh, I don't know how you drink a whole bottle of champagne. That's
the whole thing.
Eventually.
No, because then it was nighttime, and you can't really I guess I could have scrounged up a different cork to seal it back up or something, but I didn't. I left the last bit in there to go flat. Whatever.
Does it just taste like wine after it stops bubbly?
I don't know. Probably.
And
then it just tastes like white wine and bleh.
Then it just tastes like Chardonnay and gross.
Ugh.
No, champagne is like instant headache for me. It like so fast, I'll get a headache from it. It's weird.
I don't drink it very much. I drink all alcohol like I drink beer, by the gulp, by the pint. So it's difficult for me to do things like champagne because I would just glug, oh, this is so good. It's like sparkling, glug, 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 and then game over.
What's the ABV on it? Oh crap.
Yeah, it's not. It's generous, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's generous ABV. It's something like I really only do champagne for probably New Year's, but I don't know. I've just been in a mood lately, and I had good news on Monday, so I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna buy a bottle of champagne."
It's good. You should have savored it. You need a sword.
One alcohol my wife and I get with some regularity is it's very similar to champagne. It's bubbly rosé, and there's a big difference. The wine people will just chop your heads off if you say that it's like, pink champagne or whatever. It is quite a bit different. So the bubbles are way down on it, so it's easier to drink. It's cheaper, and we really like it. It definitely physiologically it reminds me of cider, so I can drink it with a little bit more understanding than I can a lot of wines. And maybe it's like it's a sub $20 bottle for sure. Maybe it's in the $15 range sometimes. They're not very easy to find. But bubbly rosés are like one of our favorite things to go to.
My grocery store has a pretty good selection of canned wine. And so they'll be red, they'll be white, and almost always a bubbly rosé. But those cans are probably comparable to the $8 bottle of Brut that I bought. I'm trying to think.
More expensive because a 750 ml bottle, normal wine bottle is 25.4 ounces, so it's roughly 2 12-ounce cans. And oftentimes those cans are actually a little small. A wine can in the United States can't be 12 ounces because it's a rule. It has to be 11 point something ounces.
Had not noticed that.
It looks like a 12 ounce, but if you look at this fine print, it's less than 12 ounces.
So I've been getting ripped off with my theoretically cheap cans of wine.
Pennies at a time. Yeah.
That's how they get you.
You need to just get like a single kegerator that holds just like one little pony keg, and then you can go buy like 5 gallons worth of your favorite box wine and then just carbonate that.
Yeah.
And then you have it on tap.
Yeah. And it'll stay fresh the whole time because CO2 is like a antioxidant preservative. Fresh tasting.
I never thought of that. I'm like wasting the wine and the water by combining them. I could have just been carbonating the wine.
Yeah, and you can put it somewhere where it's not as easy to get to. Like maybe put the kegerator in your garage.
My detached garage.
That way you have to like really want it. You can't just get up from your couch and go to the kitchen and go like, you have to like, I gotta go outside.
I'll just start using a bigger mug.
Exactly. Bring a pitcher back. Here.
Look, I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
You're not going to slow me down, Duran.
She's pretty smart, man. I mean, I'm all fine. Figure it out.
Although I do find, because I've got one now, I've got a 2-tap one, and I find that I actually drink less from it than I thought. And there was a whole joke of like, oh man, you're always going to have 10 gallons of something right in your kitchen. You're going to be dead. And I was like, I don't really use it all that much anymore. Not as much as I thought I would.
You can control the portions.
That's a big part of it with me. I have learned that I will drink an 8-ounce glass as fast as I will drink a 20-ounce glass. It's because just the motion is what I've like. It's the repetitive motion that I like doing. So that's like whenever we can go back to pubs or whatever, I almost always get it. Instead of a pint, I'll ask for the glass, knowing I'll drink it just as fast as the pint. Yeah.
That's actually a alcohol pro tip. Whenever I go to bars, I'm always asking for things in a half pint or 10 ounce, and they'll pull out some fancy glassware, and I'm like, I don't care, just put it into small thing. And every now and then you go to a bar and they only have pint glasses, and I'm like, well, can you fill it halfway for me?
Yeah,
whatever it's gonna take. But there are some places in the country that will not do that, or they'll be like, yeah, I have to charge you full price, and I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Just give me like literally less alcohol. That's what I need at this point.
Fine, I'll pay for it. You're welcome for the bottom line bump there.
Right.
But the computer won't let me put in a half a pint. It's just I can't.
Exactly. I don't have a button for it.
Yeah.
Fine. Just push any button you want.
But yeah, that's my little trick that I do for myself, you know. So since I'm clearly not going to not get a bunch of glasses of it, if I get smaller ones, that makes sense, I guess.
I've had three beers already. Slow down.
Right.
What?
And 3
So,
8-ounce beers.
but like speaking of like brewing and stuff,
Mm.
Nat, what's been going on?
Oh well.
I mean, other than almost every night you were getting tear gassed. I mean, mainly on the brewing front.
Yeah, a lot of tear gas. We have a new production facility, and we've been talking about this. I probably mentioned this on the Geek in the City like 3 years ago, and it's we're really close. And for instance, we're done making cider at the old place that we all know and love.
Mm-hmm.
The canning line has been removed. All of our other packaging equipment's out. None of our tanks have moved yet. But like the place looks like the old place now looks like moving day at your house. There's like that thing's still there and that thing's still there, but there's a huge gap of wall that you've never seen before, and there's like dust bunnies everywhere, and the broken extension cord. That's what it looks like right now. And it'll look like that for another couple of weeks. It's such a big project getting everything moved over to the new building. And the new building is down near Widmer, so still really close in. It's about a 5-minute drive with or without traffic from our current space. And the real sort of tragedy is that we're not setting it up for any retail customer facing kind of experience. It doesn't. The building is very industrial, very gritty. No, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it was also the layout just did not lend itself for having any kind of a customer experience in any sort of professional way. That's not to say that we won't have some folks in to have some parties. And I'm sure that if coronavirus wasn't here right now, there would be the biggest New Year's Eve party at our place that the world has ever seen.
At the old one or the new one? Just
the new one. The new one, yeah. So the new one is 20,000 square feet. It's just a wide open giant warehouse with very tall ceilings, and it's pretty bare bones. It's an old building, so it's got some really cool timber in it. But we're not setting it up for sort of retail stuff anymore. Although I did have one of my long-standing tent show members stop by just the other day, dude named Andy. I owed him a bottle from last year, and I was like, well, just come on by. So because I had just uncovered all my old tent show stock, and so we talked, and I owed him one bottle, and I think he left with 5. But we had we spent like maybe a half hour, 45 minutes talking, and I realized that this is the tap room that we had was such a unique space that really meant a lot to the brand and to me and to the customers and to the general community. You remember having a party there, and the new space is not going to appeal to casual, let's go out for a drink. It'll never appeal to those kind of people. But folks who are already sort of bought into the brand can certainly come in and really enjoy it. So I'm got some bunch of things in my head trying to figure out how to bring in a tent show like experience in the new building for the established folks, for the people who I can have a conversation with and tell them this is what we're doing here and this is what the plan is for the future, and they can see through the grittiness a bit and deal with the
probably actually kind of like it a little bit.
Exactly. They'd be able to really love it. I wouldn't want to put that as my first foot forward for a new customers, let's say. But for the established customers, I think it's 100%. So I'm really excited to be able to get the vaccine for everybody and then have some folks over. And I'm also kind of content that we talked about like airflow. It's a huge building. It has 5 or 6 overhead doors that pull up. So there's like a lot of opportunity for what I would consider relatively safe kind of, you're almost like you're outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I might try to do, small group tent show tours. Like a lot of tent show members come with their significant other. I've met a lot of, sort of quote unquote families who are tent show members. So I think it'd be great to bring in, maybe to do like one weekend and everybody sign up for a 20-minute slot. And I'll take you on a quick tour and you just talk a little bit and then hasta la vista, just as a way to kind of keep connection to those.
That'd be cool.
Those folks in that space.
I know it just hit me like this is the first time in like 5 years that there won't be like a Christmas end of year tent show event.
Yeah,
it kind of bums me out a little bit.
I know we've done two. We do two events every year at the end of the year. We do a sort of mid-December, usually happening right about now, an industry party where I give an invitation to. It's an open invitation to the entire restaurant industry and grocery, anybody involved tangentially in food or beverage in Portland. And there's usually a few hundred people that show up, and it's open invite, but industry only, and it's no charge, which is always fun. And that's not happening, obviously. But this is the kind of thing I would love to be able to do right now. Yeah, and then our tent show party, which always kind of is in between Christmas and New Year's, and is a good way to kind of recap the season and see all the people and do silly games. And
the industry one was always fun because a lot of the other, brewers or restaurateurs would bring stuff like, hey, this is stuff that we're going to try out, or what do you think of this? So it would always be this kind of fun experimental bottle and food share too. It was cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of like why I got into the business in the first place, really, is just to meet people and sort of build and participate in the food and beverage community in Portland. And we have been crushed this year, more as an industry, more so than I think any other industry. Maybe cruise lines; those people got destroyed. But
but then they got a huge kickback.
Yeah, and the restaurant industry still has not had that one kind of thing like the airlines have had and whatever. So.
And I read that Guy Fieri raised more money for the restaurant industry than Congress did.
Yeah, I like Guy Fieri. Do we like Guy Fieri? I like the guy.
I don't, but
he's
I
easy
cannot.
to pick
I cannot.
on, but...
I as a personality, I cannot stand him. But I will not sit here and argue that what he has done is that was a good thing. That was a very good thing that he did.
They just rebroadcast an episode of The Sporkful where he was a guest on it, and he was very honest about how if he could have go back and pick a different persona, he would. It drives him nuts that he's known as the frosted tip, flame shirt, Flavor Town guy. He's like, as gimmicks go, he's like, I wish I'd never had fucking done that. He's like, because it's not who I am, but he's like, but it's what pays the bills. So they get TV guy, and that's really not who I am.
I like it. It's also kind of a fun, you watch the diners, drives, and dives, and he comes in and he's got this super, the first time you start watching him, you're like, wow, this is a really different guy. He's such a nice guy when he's tasting this probably mediocre sandwich or whatever,
Yeah. But he raised go ahead, sorry.
I will agree. I've never seen him be anything but nice.
Yeah.
Just unbearable.
Yeah. Yeah, he raised $21 million for restaurant workers.
Wow.
Yeah, he's still doing it. And like when there was the huge Paradise Fire in California, he just brought in all of his, because he only could cook outdoors, but he just brought it all in and like fed those towns for days on end. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Another little bit of good news. I think it was announced yesterday. They haven't hit their full goal, but Enchanted Forest has raised enough that they will be able to reopen next year.
They were on OPB today. I heard this.
They said
good news to hear.
Yeah, they said in August 2021 we will be able to celebrate our 50th anniversary.
Yeah,
that's good to hear.
So yeah, that's really nice to hear. Now we got to try to save Dan and Louise.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
Yeah.
I know I'm seeing a lot of headlines about, like Portland restaurant that, survived the Great Depression and now closing its doors.
Yeah, there's some depressing number. I think it was 17% of all restaurants are already closed at this point, and
permanently.
Yeah, permanently. Yeah. So
I think the thing that angers me the most about it all angers me, but the thing that really is just, and I would assume most of us are realizing it's that these places are now just going to get bought up by like, investment banking. Like it's going to homogenize
Even
city
more.
even more.
Right.
Yeah.
The Shake Shacks and the fucking Chipotles and the.
Yeah. So yeah, that, like that, I don't know what they're like anymore, but like the Santeria that's connected to Mary's Club. Yeah. Like one day it's going to be, Chipotle.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I
already
don't know.
gone.
Is it gone?
It's gone.
That was a bad example then, but
It had changed hands a couple of years back, and when I last went errand running in the area, it's boarded up and it's gone.
Yeah.
Mary's is somehow operating, but
Central.
strip clubs will always endure.
will they?
I don't know.
Like that. There's an awful lot of shots being taken at like the entire sex worker industry
Right. Yeah.
right now. Like it's because of laws that we let get passed. It's harder and harder for them to actually work right now.
Right.
Because the passing of SOSTA and FESTA are the things that are allowing Instagram and Facebook to boot people off for trying to make a living.
Right. So now they can't do their job in person, and they can't try to accommodate that lack of work through social media.
Yep. And it's great that OnlyFans exists, but that's also how the percentage is 40 that they take.
Wow.
Is it? I didn't know.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's fucking huge.
Wow.
Like for all my issues with Patreon, they don't take that big of a cut.
Yeah, OnlyFans takes I might be exaggerating, but it's more than it ought to be.
Wow.
Well, and the thing about Patreon is like, what sort of content do they allow?
They used to allow more adult content, and they technically do, but they will bury you pretty deep.
Yep.
Unless you're already a pretty big established sex worker, or if you were a burlesque performer and you started one. If you don't show up with a pretty heavy audience already, you're never going to get it off the ground, which is true for a lot of these Patreon sites just to begin with, but that's like 2 strikes against you right off the gate.
And the problem is people who have big names like that, they also cause problems for everyone else. Like,
yeah,
part of the problem with OnlyFans was what Bella Thorne did.
Right.
And, that made it harder for everybody on that side.
Yeah.
It's
so
bullshit.
Hopefully we learn from these mistakes and we can make the future run a little bit better. But it's curious. We're going to see a lot of like industry shakeups and stuff. I don't know what you guys all thought. Your thoughts are on Warner Brothers putting all of their 2021 to HBO Max. Their entire lineup next year is going to HBO Max.
Good.
I mean, it's where, I know that there are people who are willing to, go to theaters, and there are people who are demanding the right to go to different places that are not available right now. But I think it's safe to say that the majority, like enough of a quorum exists for people who are like, no, I'm going to be enjoying entertainment only in my home for the foreseeable future. So they're hedging their bets. Like, this is where the audience is, so this is where we will take the content. If anything, I'm surprised that that more parties aren't doing it. Streaming services are sort of, I don't want to say like on the lead of entertainment, but they're sort of like the big, what am I trying to say?
They're like the flashy ones that catch the news when things happen.
They're the hip new kids who should be onto the current trends. And the fact that only HBO has announced, oh, we're going to be putting our content, or the only it was Warner Brothers, this is where we're putting our content, is a little bit surprising.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys heard that about Bob Dylan sold his rights to all of his music just a couple days ago. 9-figure deal, and I heard like a I don't know, NPR piece on it, and the person was really interesting. The perspective was really interesting that the investment, the purchase that was made, wasn't about like Bob Dylan or whatever. It was a purely financial transaction. The theory was that there's a lot of people out there who are still looking to invest money and get the return somehow. And there's so much uncertainty in so many traditional industries. So many industries are down or up or whatever. But there was a realization by some rich group that music is quarantine proof. Like there's always, no matter what happens with trends of the DoorDashification of consumers or Amazonification or whatever, music is like unless we all get a disease where we can't hear each other, it's like a really sound investment. So the group that bought the Dylan catalog approached it purely from a long-term investment point of view. So they're just going to maximize the investment on it and knowing that it's a super safe bet.
And they just will sell usage rights for limited times to different sites and stuff.
And they'll pull in the pennies from the Spotify's and whatever. But
yeah. Spotify hardly pays anything at all. They might as well not pay
fractions of pennies. I mean, I'm sure Big Dylan makes pennies. I mean,
Taylor Swift can make money off of Spotify, but I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say I thought it was inevitable that this was the route that it was going to go, but I mean, I'm with Denise on that. Like I think some of the other studios are going to wait and see how this affects Warner Brothers, and if it even looks remotely positive, they're going to jump on it too.
I do see in the chat that supposedly AMC Theaters is suing Warner Brothers because of that decision. So, it hasn't all come out of the wash yet.
It hasn't. I don't see that suit going anywhere, especially since I forgot what the rule was called, that it just lapsed. It was the federal law that I believe prohibited studios from owning theaters, because that's how it used to be.
Right.
That just lapsed. It didn't get renewed. So what I think is going to happen is, this is the thing that I think is potentially very dangerous and problematic, is that I think in a couple of years, I don't see Regal rebounding. I think they've permanently shuttered. I would not be surprised to read a headline a year from now that says Bezos has bought all Regal theater chains and, creates Prime Cinema, I could see Apple teaming up with Universal or maybe Paramount and going in together on something. Ironically, the one that everyone assumed would be doing it is the one that I don't think can swing it. I don't see Disney hasn't had the capital to pull that off right now because they're still just bleeding money. The only thing that makes them money right now is Disney Plus.
Yep.
Like that's it. Everything else they're just losing their shorts on constantly.
Wow.
And surprisingly, they haven't changed their prices.
No, they've also got huge numbers. I think only Netflix has more subscribers than them.
I could see that.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, Warner Brothers is doing this move. Because you'll also notice that the trial period for HBO Max is gone.
Is it really?
Yeah. Or it's going to be gone when Wonder Woman drops.
Well, no. I read the headline on that, and it said that when Wonder Woman drops, it will not be available to anyone who is currently in their HBO trial mode. So it would only be if you have already gone beyond the trial period and are an active paying member.
Right. Yeah, which I get, because think about back in the day HBO, how many people signed up for Game of Thrones and then, pulled the plug.
Right. A lot of people do that like every year. They have like their 1 week where they watch, they sign up for the free thing, watch everything that's been piling up for the year, and then sign out.
Yep. I remember that
sounds exhausting.
Yeah, we did that for Disney for Hamilton, and then I was like, we're actually not going to cancel this thing. So that was the theory. We went into it and we're like, oh yeah, we'll pay $7 and watch the Hamilton musical. And
That's why I refuse to sign up for anything, even temporarily, because I'm going to get too drawn into whatever they got, and then I'm like, one more service I'm paying for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But aren't you paying for most of them already anyway?
Exactly. I'm like, I've got enough services. I don't need more.
Well, it's like I know that Ted Lasso's amazing from everyone's told me, but it's like if I sign up for a test of Apple TV, I'm gonna forget, or there's gonna be something else, and I'm like, you guys just put it out like on, like I'll buy a season. I don't want your service, but if you tell me that you spend $20 and you buy Ted Lasso, okay, I'll do that.
Or just have it show up on Netflix, and it'd be even better.
And eventually, they probably will.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's Apple; it's their own service now.
You can still have your own and then like sell it on the side for more.
Yeah, it's like Apple Studios versus
because
Apple
like, all of these services know that there is going to be a set amount of the population that is just not going to sign up. And it's like the people who like to do the free trial thing. Yes, it's exhausting, but if you really can't afford it, like HBO is $15 a month, Netflix is up to like almost $20 a month. You sometimes you just really have to pick it. Well, I'm on a big family plan.
Oh,
and they just raised their prices, so I know that
prices,
now I'm looking at close to $20 a month. It can really add up. So at a certain point, you have to just cut it off, but you still want that content.
Right.
But we sit down, we watch a lot of Netflix or whatever. But if we're family sitting down, daughter and I sitting down, and we go click to Amazon and there's a movie we want to watch and it's $3, we never $4. We never say no. Now, over the course of the month, how many is that? Is that another $40 or $50? Probably, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. So could we just watch what we wanted to watch on a pay per viewing, per season type of thing?
I'll search it. If a movie is on Amazon or wherever for additional money, I will Google search if it's available anywhere else, and then I'll just weigh it by how much I want to watch it. I'm like, do I really want to see Invisible Man for $13.99? No, I don't think I do. And then I waited long enough, and it was free on a different service.
Woohoo! Yeah. I think a lot of them you can rent through PlayStation also now. So I don't know.
I've never used that service.
I did when they were offering a deal for $10. You could get every Resident Evil movie, and I was like, "Well, hot damn!"
Of course you did.
I'm jumping on that. That's a steal. Worth every penny.
You have 30 days to watch it? Was it a rental?
No, permanently.
Ah.
Sir, I own every Resident Evil film now. Thank you very much.
Wow. And all future Resident Evil films as well?
Oh, if only. I have future subscription service.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm kind of excited for the reboot. It's actually going to follow the games this time. That'll be interesting to see. The best streaming deal out there is still Shudder. It's $4.99 a month if you like horror. You basically watch one thing a month. You've paid for Shudder.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I bet that thing with Warner Brothers, though. I mean, part of it. I mean, this is from the business side. Sometimes you just got to get shit off the books too. And that's just going to be there were 10 titles that were just going to be just weighting stuff down. It's like just push them off, move them on.
And I know that these days movies in movie theaters are in some sort of a digital format.
Yeah.
But there is still a production cost that goes into manufacturing and distributing those movies in that digital format in order to get it to all of the theaters. How much money do you think, what was it, Revenant? The Revenant or Tenants or?
Tenant.
Tenant.
They lost their shorts on Tenant.
Because they sent it to theater first, and now it's going to be available for streaming. Like they could have just bypassed that and saved that money.
Well, and that's also, God, what's his name? The director, Nolan.
Christopher.
Who still I believe only shoots in film. So even though it was then transferred digitally to theaters, the main thing that studios save money by not distributing is advertising. Usually, if you look at a movie's budget, that's also its advertising. So say a movie costs $200 million to make, they're going to drop another 90 to 100 advertising it. But if you're not worried about theatrical numbers anymore, you don't have to pay for billboards and TV spots. You just pay for a couple internet ads that just kind of run randomly. And
opening weekend is not that important.
You don't need it anymore, especially if you have your own service. Every time you log into whatever, HBO Max, every time you log in, it says who's watching it, and you click who it is.
Yeah.
Before you get the menu, if you get a quick 20-second video of like coming in 2 weeks, Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah. I mean, how many times did I come this close to watching Borat's second movie? Because every time you go to Amazon, it's just yelling at you to watch the damn thing. And I never did, but
like that's why, I mean, that's why that the live action Mulan turned a profit. They made it for, I think, just over 200 million. And its theatrical wasn't that great for obvious reasons because of the pandemic and whatnot, but it almost had no advertising budget.
Mm-hmm.
So Disney didn't need it to do massive weekend numbers for them to break even and then start making a profit off it, which is what they did. I think they broke down within a month, basically in that window where they were charging $30 for you to own it, even if you had Disney Plus. Someone crunched the numbers and it pulled in like 250 million through just Disney Plus.
Well, big dollar news this week. I don't know if, as the resident Lord of the Rings fan in the crowd here, the Amazon, the $1 billion purchase that they paid for the I don't know. Did we talk about this in the past? How the very curious thing that Amazon was able to buy from the Tolkien estate, they paid $1 billion for the TV rights.
Right.
Everything except the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Ring content. So the War of the Ring content was not for sale. But
and that's Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return. Is that considered War of the Ring?
Yeah, and maybe you can probably throw The Hobbit in there because they have it in the same timeline. They actually, the Tolkien family, they sell it as a timeline. So Third Age transitioning into the Fourth Age in TV is already in movie done. TV you can't buy it, but you can buy these other ages, these other years. So Amazon bought all the other. Yeah, it's super weird how that works out. So Amazon bought all the other years, and some years have hundreds of thousands of pages written about them. Some hundreds of year periods have thousands of pages written about them, and some of them have like very few pages. So it's really interesting so we know now that we don't know what periods of time the show is going to be, but we can make some inferences based on the new cast list. And just this last week, a new cast list came out. Well, not really cast list. Does cast imply what characters they're playing? Because they didn't tell us what characters they're playing.
No, not necessarily.
Cast list is,
Okay, so we have a cast list. It's the second cast list that was announced for the, I don't know what you call it, Middle Earth. Because not Lord of the Rings, it's the Middle Earth on Amazon or something. And it's a really cool looking cast list. Tons of diversity. And they're still claiming they're going to start filming in New Zealand here this year, or 2021. But it is really cool. Especially I like the parts where they're working with content that Tolkien didn't write a lot about. He wrote a lot about it, the leading up to it and the aftermath of it. So you can infer a ton, but it gives the writers, the show writers, an incredible amount of latitude to fill in huge amounts of detail without necessarily pissing off Middle Earth fans, because there's no content written about it. As long as they do a good job, and stay true to it. And one of the things that they can do really well is throw in a lot more non-white folks, because Tolkien never really calls out white in his descriptions. He calls out not white a couple of times as the evil black Southrons who destroy everything and whatever. But he there's a lot of opportunity for a modern reader to look at particularly the Second Age, which we think they're going to be working with, as an opportunity for a lot of diverse people to be able to be included and have it be super authentic and not like just pandering. So it's pretty cool.
What covers the era of the Second Age? That's not the Silmarillion, is it? Is that?
Well, Silmarillion, goes from kind of covers everything all the way up until just before kind of the War of the Ring. So it's important. I think the Second Age is very, very limited content in the Silmarillion and in his other works. So there's not a lot of opportunity to screw things up. But it also, I think, it really directly ties into the Third Age. So the non-Middle Earth fans know they know the name Sauron, right? And they know the Ring of Power, and they might not know who made the rings and under what circumstances, and were there 3 elven rings or 6 elven, but there were some elven rings, I think. Ring wraiths. Okay, yeah, we know what a ring wraith is, and there's these little pieces that have wormed their way into common knowledge. And the Second Age has like the forging of the rings and how Sauron became known as Sauron the Deceiver, and why the elves are all like squirrely and want to get out, and how humans had this big rise that they did, which then led into the Third Age, which we know a little bit better. So there's a lot of opportunities for a casual fan to be like, oh, they're talking about the ring here, and you're like, yeah, it's that ring. But if you go much earlier, then you're getting into this super weird stuff where the only thing that you can put your finger on is, oh, it's an elf named Galadriel. I know that name, and I don't know anything else that's going. Elrond wasn't even born yet in like 3/4 of the Silmarillion. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for them to do. I'm really excited as a super diehard Lauder fan. I think that go guys go. You spent $1 billion. You better spend another $1 billion to make it look good. So
do you just call it Lauder fan?
Lauder. Yeah. Lauder.
Okay. No, I just haven't heard that before.
The word like 10 times in a day. You start, trimming these things up a little bit.
Yeah, you got to shrink it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of a fun thing to talk about. Do you like you or Cable or Denise? Are there ever like franchise books you like that would be like, you know what? It'd be cool to see if they could expand them into a series.
To think about that.
Yeah.
Or like fill in the gaps,
Well, here the funny thing is there are plenty of book series that are already a series that I enjoy, such as Dresden Files or The Expanse. Off the top of my head, those are 2 book franchises that have a lot of novellas that fill in the gaps between events from the one book to the next, and sort of give you that more expanded universe vibe. And yet in neither of those scenarios have I ever actually taken the time to dive into those novellas, often because I only learn about them after I've already made it a certain way through, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to double back and then like hop around in the timeline, because that's disruptive to my brain, essentially. So I'm like, I guess I'm just not going to have those bits of like extra canon.
Right.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking about like Rogue One, the way it like totally just, where that moment where it's like, these are the plans that we stole. You're like, oh my God. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like once I started getting into the expanded stuff with Star Wars, so Rebels, Clones, Rogue One, I get really bogged down in trying to like mentally place where all of those things belong.
Oh, yeah.
Beyond, episodes 4 through 6, 1 through 3, 7 and 9. I have to just sometimes I just need a big old timeline in front of me, or I get lost worrying about where these things land rather than enjoying the story.
Right.
Those timelines exist.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are usually in the front of every current Star Wars like book and comic too. They usually do them.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of the stuff that Dark Horse did is now all considered legacy or whatever, but Dark Horse used to always print on the very bottom the timeline. It was kind of cool, and they see stuff start to fit in and stuff.
That's pretty cool. But the only Star Wars comics I ever read were the Marvel comics run from a couple years ago.
Right.
Well, I think they're still going, but I don't read them anymore.
Yeah, they are. I think if you were to go to StarWars.com, I'm sure there's a timeline on there. Or just hit up Dave Filoni, see if he'll answer you.
Dear Dave.
Well, who will answer you once in a while is his wife. She is also active online. A different name, but you can catch her every once in a while, and she'll be like, I'll ask him for you.
That's cute.
Yeah. Yep. She does marketing for Lucasfilm, I believe. So, although speaking of Rogue One, they're still moving ahead on the Cassian Andor series. They've been in pre-production, and they're going to start filming pretty soon on that one. So that should be kind of fun. Even though you know the ending to it, it's still going to be kind of fun to see I don't know. I've always liked the idea of that. Yes, the rebels were clearly the good guys, but in those early days, they had to get kind of down and dirty to fight the Empire. And they were, before they had, big capital ships, they were, they were scrappers, they were guerrilla fighters, and that, that comes with a price, and that's kind of the angle that I think the Cassian series is going for. So that's a fun way to approach it. So, which means, Nat, have you been watching The Mandalorian?
I'm currently a little backlogged. I have a tendency to, I really don't like consuming content 1 week apart. I like to get things all finished up and then binge all the way through. I can't, something about it just bothers me.
Yeah.
Is it the cliffhanger that like frustrates you?
No, a little bit. Mostly it's like I don't have my weekly schedule isn't like, put that on the calendar, I'm gonna do it. And so I'd like miss a week, and then it would be like, oh, I gotta do the thing, and I just feel like that pressure, kind of like I'm missing out. Whereas if I wait until it's done, then it's just like, oh, I'll just wait until it's finished, and then I'll just do it all in one day. Yeah,
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
It's FOMO.
Cable, was there a series you thought it'd be kind of cool you'd like to see come to life on the screen, as it were?
I've admitted this before. I'm admittedly not as well read as an adult as I ought to be. Most of the series that I've read as an adult have been by William Gibson, and some of that has made it to film, and some of it has not, and to varying degrees of great to mostly meh.
And video game this week.
Yes. Yeah, trust me, that has been a topic of conversation in this particular household for at least a month.
Yeah, I mean, it was delayed for damn near a year, so it is apparently still very glitchy.
I know.
Well, yeah, similar to my point of like waiting for things to finish. I am gonna wait like 3 or 4 months to start to play Cyberpunk because I want the 1.1 patch to come out before I spend all my time on it.
Yeah,
we may have a copy of Cyberpunk Red, the core rulebook, which came out a couple of weeks ago.
I have the Cyberpunk 2020, and I played that as a high schooler, actually. Yeah.
The new Cyberpunk Red was originally supposed to come out the same day as Cyberpunk 2077. And then both release dates got screwed up. So the video game is still coming out next week. The book came out a couple weeks ago. Its price went up because they went, with our delay, we went ahead and added more content to the book. So you're getting a bigger book with more stuff in it. There you go.
That's good.
Oh, so is the book the same era as the game then? It's supposed to run side by side?
As I have been told by Merrick, the folks that are the folks that are really deep into this have recommended using the book to draw up the kind of character that you plan on using in the game.
Oh, that's a kind of a cool idea.
And she's just been basically reading the book day after day to get deep into the lore of it, to get herself ready to start playing on Thursday when the game gets out.
Mm-hmm. That is something that I learned from Merrick, by the way. I've never mentioned this before, but you reminded me of it. It never occurred to me to sort of research a game or kind of dive into the mechanics and the character building stuff before actually starting a game. Mm-hmm. And I learned that Merrick did that, when I played a different game with her, and I'm like, wow, it's really smart. It probably makes your game a lot better, and it does. So tell Merrick I said thanks.
Like role-playing games or video games in general, or just
video games in general, because even it doesn't have to be like a complex role-playing game to necessarily like give you an opportunity to like develop your own stats and stuff like that, or just sort of knowing what the story, like a general outline of what the story is, can kind of help you with decision making throughout the course of the game.
Right, you're supposed to throw yourself into this, like make this decision about this, make this decision about that, and how do you do that if you don't know what you're doing, who you
Right.
are?
If you just
in that
dive
world?
in head first
Yeah.
without at least some general knowledge, I've definitely like played myself into corners where I'm like, wow, I really wish I had more than one save file because I'd love to go back about 14
Yeah.
hours and have done things a little bit differently.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, that
No,
was a
that-
total sidebar.
No, but that makes sense. I mean, I know whenever, like, especially with video game RPGs, I'll kind of decide how I want to approach it, and then in my own head start to write a backstory to the character, regardless of what the game is making the character experience.
Mm.
And I always just enjoy them more that way. I mean, that's why I bring it up a lot. Like, it's one of the reasons I think I enjoy Skyrim so much. Not so much what the game does, but what it allows my brain to do as I play it. Because you're very much a blank slate in that game. You give yourself an appearance that you almost never see after that. And then you generate stats and abilities depending on the missions you pick. Even though there's the one story that everyone eventually has to finish, it's how you go about playing it. And it lets you create the story in your own head, because honestly, for as much praise as that game got about this in-depth world, it only feels like you have a lot of choice because there's so many side missions and the world's so big. The world itself is pretty much an on-rails adventure. You will do this, then you must go do this, then you have to fight the dragon. It's like these are the things that end up happening, and your decisions in the grand scheme of things, apart from the main mission, have almost no impact on the game. Unless you choose to in your own head to do it, of how you play it through. So that's definitely a good way to approach them, for sure.
Well, that's what's theoretically exciting about Cyberpunk, is that there's like, I've read that you can get like 3/4 of the way through the entire main story, or 90% or something, without killing another character if you want, which I think is just like super, just crazy.
It's
like,
pretty radical.
Yeah. And so I'm like really excited,
Yeah, the other big thing I read about it is that you can, let me phrase it correctly, you can present as one gender, but when you're in building the character, you can build it as not that gender if you want. I don't think they have a non-binary descriptor to pick from. But I've read reviews of like, I picked a male character who does not have a penis. Like I think the review I read is like, because that's who I am, I finally get to do that in the game.
Right.
I don't know how well they're going to handle it, but the fact that they gave me that option was a big step. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about, for that reason, I'm kind of thinking about playing Cyberpunk as literally myself. Oftentimes I'm playing, I like you said, Aaron, you create some persona and you fill in the backstory and you start making decisions that way. And I'm wondering if I should just play Cyberpunk like literally as making my own decisions, and not just physically, but like putting myself into that position.
Like injecting your own morals into it. Not
Exactly. Yeah. And when you're Geralt and your decisions are like, should I kill the baby or not kill the baby? It's like, I would never fucking be here in the first place, man. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But if you're Geralt, the truce is usually kill the baby, because it's going to come back.
Pretty much.
Some horrible demon is going to bite you later on. So yeah, I might as well do it now. It's easy.
Yeah. It's making.
I remember in the old Metal Gear games, well, once they became more stealth oriented, you could play those games without killing anyone. Until the very end, when then it would force you to fight the boss. But I've seen Skyrim playthroughs where the characters avoid killing, except for dragons that the game forces you to do, using spells that only make people run away, never ever engaging in actual physical and fatal combat. So,
interesting.
But those are more of people that are trying to break a game, kind of thing.
Yeah, sort of like,
can I do it?
Or whatever. Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Cable?
I was just going to comment that I'm starting to take more and more umbrage with games that have you kill a dragon.
I would like to hear more about that.
It's an egregious act. It's like, why? I don't know. I know that it's a popular thing in all of our fiction. It's like you have to muster the forces to kill a dragon. It's like, why the fuck are we killing dragons? they are the things that we should be revering and gaining knowledge and wisdom from. Why are we killing them? What is it about? That's the thing that we have to kill.
Not if you grew up with this like Eurocentric form of like history and fantasy.
Beowulf. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about like all the different cultures that like deify or like in whatever aspect respect a dragon. But my earliest and most common exposure to the concept of a dragon as a wee nerd were books like Lord of the Rings, but other franchises where it's all about knights and castles and killing dragons.
Yeah. So I'll give you a backstory. One of the earliest stories that I remember from childhood was a Mayer Meiser book. Is that right? Mercer Meyer. He did a retelling of a story that was called Everyone Knows What a Dragon Looks Like. And the impetus of the story was not to kill a dragon. It was a small village that was about to be attacked by barbarians from the outside. And they all decided, well, we need to pray to the dragon. And they all get together and they pray that the dragon, the great dragon of the East, will come down and save their village and keep them from happening. And the fable is more about don't judge things by appearances, because this fat old man shows up the following day and says, "Hi, I'm the dragon. I'm here to save your village." And the poor homeless orphan boy that sweeps the streets in front of the main gate is the one that goes, "Oh, great! Let me take you to the town leaders and we'll get you taken care of." And everyone has an opinion about what dragons actually look like, and none of them agree that it looks like a fat old man. But the young boy goes, "I'm sorry everyone's treated you this way. Here's a bowl of rice. Please sit in my humble abode and rest your feet." And he's like, "For you, kid, I'm going to save the village." It's like, everyone else can go pound sand, but I'll save the village for you. And then it turns out he's actually the fucking dragon. Thanks, cat. But that was like, it was after that I started reading stories where, we have to go slay the dragon, but it's always stuck in the back of my head, and it's come more and more forward over the years. I've been looking at fairy tales through a more modern lens. That's also why I'm having issues with Kitsune fairy tales, the fox spirit, where they're always malicious, they're always evil, they're always tricksters. And I'm like, yes, and they're also always women, and all of these stories are written by men. So I think this is bullshit. I think that the monsters and creatures of our myths and legends that we always have to slay, I think we're slaying the wrong things.
Cable, how do you think? I've been playing Breath of the Wild for a long time, and I'm still playing it. And I think you're just talking about dragons. It kind of, I'm actually trying to get some shards from one of the whatever for the thing. And I think it's interesting. I think Breath of the Wild may have done a pretty good job with the dragons. There's sort of these neutral creatures which are occasionally damaging if you get too close to them, but they're not. It seems like they're not. Do you have any thoughts about the Breath of the Wild, the way they handle dragons?
I don't, because I've never played any of the Zelda games.
Yeah.
Like that, like both Zelda and Super Mario Brothers, I missed. Like, it didn't click with me at a young age, so like it's never been part of my adult nostalgia, and it's like, so I've never jumped into it, because I'm like, like Resident Evil, yes, all day long, but not.
And kill those things.
Yeah, I'm still 100% on kill zombies.
We're okay with killing zombies.
And Wesker, screw that guy.
Oh man, from the get-go, he should have been the first one you put a bullet in his head.
What if Val Kilmer,
Wesker,
but really douchey?
Yes,
that's Wesker.
Albert Wesker is a character from Resident Evil that is behind most of the bullshit that happens.
Gotcha.
But he has perfectly combed blonde hair, wears his sunglasses all the time.
Yep.
You say that as though these are antithetical to his douchebaggery.
No.
They are hallmarks
Yes.
of his douchebaggery.
Okay,
Trademark.
I'm just making sure I understood that correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I think like back in the day, D&D was all, I mean, it's in the name of the game, Dungeons and Dragons. It was all about, you got to kill the dragon. But I think as the game evolved, you got more nuance from them.
And as the decades evolved as well.
Yeah.
Like now I understand that one of the dragon that everyone's like, nah, fuck that dragon, go kill it, is white dragons, because they're dumb and mean. And will like... It's like, oh, look, they're people. I'm going to go kill them just for fun.
Right.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's this very like historically Eurocentric concept. And if you wanted to like boil it down further, it has some religious connotations too, because, there's that whole thing about like, and man shall have dominion over the earth and the beasts and whatever. Just the idea that it just portraying a dragon as this big, enormous animal that doesn't know anything, and it can only be destructive and harmful to the people, and the people are more important. So guess what? We're going to kill that dragon.
And still, that's only within the past 2,000 years then.
Right.
Because it's from the Dark Ages forward that we really codified those concepts from religious, the dragons are related to evil or related to hell or the devil.
Demons.
Yeah, and I know a lot of pre-colonial Central and South American, they don't really have dragons as we know them. They've got feathered serpents, which are similar.
That's the Quetzalcoatl.
Quetzalcoatl is one of them. They have multiple versions of it.
There's something similar to the Leviathan in there too, isn't there?
I'm a little off on the understanding of that one.
And those are looked at more like godlike creatures.
Right. Like the Chinese dragons that are depicted in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, they're godlike or they're primal elements.
It can be,
as opposed to agents of the evil one kind of thing, and that's how dragons were presented eventually.
Right.
During Dark Ages and then leading into Renaissance writing and whatnot.
So it's really the colonizers that ruined dragons for everybody.
Okay. So.
After we've killed all the dragons, then we're like, hey, these guys were actually bad, and then we killed them all.
Yes. What was I going to say? I had something else, and now it's completely gone.
I don't know. Like all of that got born out of. I wanted to see something made out of William Gibson novels. So.
Well, going back to
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, going back to the novels question, the core question that we had started with, we did get a couple things from the chat that I was going to throw out for us. One of them was Norm said he'd like to see shows that take place in the world of Andy Weir's Artemis. He says that that's a very rich world. I actually don't know anything about those, so
yeah.
Like Artemis Fowl?
No. Artemis was
Mm-hmm.
Andy Weir's follow-up to Ready Player One.
Oh, no, thank you. Ready Player One was just a slog, a punishing slog. And I did hear an excerpt from the Ready Player Two, and hard pass, not even out of curiosity this time.
There was an entire day on Twitter that's all anyone was posting were their favorite garbage excerpts out of Ready Player Two.
Like reading a bad romance novel for fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, Norm. I don't think you have any on that one.
I know a lot of people really, really enjoy the book, so I just keep myself quiet on that.
Well, a lot of people like the Hunger Games too, so.
Which I've never read, so I never even seen the movies either, so I couldn't say anything to them.
Yes, some catching up to do there.
Yeah, I mean,
or one day, no big deal.
Yeah.
I saw the movies. You know what it was? It was years ago. It was a Thanksgiving, break situation. You pop on a marathon. You pay attention or you don't. So I really only got half of what was going on through that series. I don't hate it. I don't think it's terrible. Still not going to read the books. I think that there's probably better uses of my time.
It did exactly what that series was supposed to do, which was really solidify Jennifer Lawrence's career.
And it definitely did that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry guys, we got it wrong. Andy Weir is the guy who wrote The Martian.
Oh,
And I would absolutely
more Martian.
Why did I
more of
think?
that.
Why am I thinking?
What is I don't know who you're thinking of then.
Did Reddit?
To the internet.
Ernest Cline is the
Did Ernest
writer
Cline
for that.
have a weird follow up?
A weird what?
Oh, I'm thinking of his follow up novel Armada. I don't know why I confused the two.
Oh, I see.
Armada is bad. Don't read it.
All right, I double sorry, Norm.
Sorry, Norm.
No, I think pretty much everyone here is an Andy Weir fan.
Yeah, I
Huge.
did read Artemis. It was I think The Martian's better.
I did not catch Artemis. I would read that though.
I also have not watched The Martian, so I can't, or read The Martian, so I can't say.
Highly recommend.
Yeah,
both.
The
Both. It's one of the
book and
rare
movie,
times where
yeah.
both are equally valid in their own way.
Great. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does
Yeah,
look like
I
there's
agree.
an Andy Weir Artemis coming to movie.
Oh,
Oh, I'm
so
not
it is
surprised.
coming to the screen.
I just
All right.
googled it. Yeah.
Norm, you got your wish. Boom.
This is
You're,
from
you're
2018,
welcome.
so maybe not. I don't know. So maybe it got sidelined.
He also mentioned Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash could be updated for a good story.
Anything
I-
Neil Stevenson. Can I get anything?
I got that one on my want to read list years ago and still haven't gotten to it.
Snow Crash, Cryptonomicon, Diamond Age.
I have
Nice.
mixed feelings about Snow Crash. Like, I liked it, but I also was annoyed by it. Like,
Did you read Cryptonomicon? It's like the epitome of that book.
I didn't. The only Neil Stevenson book that I've read is Snow Crash, and it's still getting past the pun of having the lead character's name hero protagonist. It's like,
Yeah. Hero.
damn it. Yeah,
Hero protagonist.
yeah, HIRO.
Yeah.
It's
Still.
hero.
It's Japanese.
Still, that's-
or,
That's a little heavy-handed, and by
Like-
a little I mean extremely.
And the character is Happa. Like, I do it like that. It was recommended to me by another Happa that's like, you should totally read this book. Like, why? It's like, dude, it starts a half Japanese guy with a ponytail. And at the time I had hair and a ponytail. So like, oh, okay. If I had read it when I was 20, I would have identified with hero protagonist. I read it when I was like in my mid 30s. It's like, guys.
Mm.
I think I identified more with the Russian assassin with the obsidian knives. It's like, you I like. Let's go get vodka.
I should revisit him because I've just realized I've never been able to finish a Neil Stevenson book.
Oof. That is a scathing indictment of Neil Stevenson books.
Well, have you only ever tried to do Cryptonomicon, like 4,000 pages?
It was probably Cryptonomicon. It's probably the one I keep trying. Maybe I should.
Yeah,
try.
don't do that. I like Diamond Age. It's I think is that one that he co-wrote with Bill Gibson. Super cool, steampunkish, fun
It's
read.
oh fuck! I used to know the name of the book that he co-wrote with Bill. Like I know him. Sorry.
Me and
Billy.
the party.
Although I do want to back up a bit. I thought the question had initially been like book series where
Yeah,
you want the world to be expanded more, but then somehow we sort of committed to the idea of those shows being on TV, and book
Yes.
franchises that we want to see made into movies or TV is a question we already answer a lot. So I want
Yeah, I
to go
was
back
talking
to
about,
the
like-
whole expansion thing.
Mm.
Yeah, that's where I was like, a series of novels that you'd like to see expanded more.
Mhm. Not that I have an answer, so I don't know why I brought attention back to that.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's probably good.
Well, I was
Um,
on the previous thread. I was gonna mention the Foundation series, but then I realized no. We don't need any more content in the Foundation series. There's like 50
So
books
many.
on that one. We're done with that one, even though it is coming to TV or whatever. So
Right. Yeah.
interesting.
I would like to, and I think actually, I'm sure someone's doing it. I would like to see a really big expanded world of the Hyborian Age, which is total like loincloths and swords, and it's Conan shit.
Mm.
Because, like, you know, even though all the Conan books are all around the one character, like, Robert E. Howard was always referencing other things that had happened that Conan had just missed, or Conan had just killed this person who at one time had done this. So there's like a lot within, you know, the Hyborian age it could be expanded upon. And I don't know, tell a bigger meta story that also connects it with I think Kull's supposed to be Conan's grandfather. By the way, don't ever
Really?
watch the movie Kull with Kevin Sorbo. Actually, don't watch anything with Kevin Sorbo.
Oh,
No,
That's your
he's
hotel, and you're nothing else on.
Yeah.
He became kind of a jackass.
Yes,
Like,
he did. Very much so.
I don't know if you
He-
become a jackass. Aren't you always a jackass, and then eventually you're found
Probably,
out?
yeah. They like. I
And-
don't know. I think some people start out as not assholes and then take a hard right turn.
mhm.
To asshole them. And I think mainly just because I like the visuals of it. I'd like to see an expansion of the worlds of Solomon Kane, which is also Robert E. Howard. But that's straight up because the main character is a monster hunter that dresses like a steampunk pilgrim. Like literal like pilgrim. He's got the hat and the boots, but he also carries a sword, and he has to have like a bracers of flintlocks, and I'm just a sucker for that look. So, you know, I'm like, I should do that. That'd be cool.
Have you guys read the Hyperion series by Dan Simmons? Hyperion, Fall of Hyperion, Endymion, Rise of Endymion.
Mm-mm.
That was another Dan Simmons, really good author. That's one I could throw out as I'd like to see it more developed. He did basically 4 books. It was 2 books, and then thousands of years in the future was 2 books. So, and that was one of those really rich worlds, like you're mentioning for the Conan thing, where it's like you're hearing about these things and you're never able to get this true story because
Right.
the plot of this story keeps moving along. Yeah, that would be a yeah.
It's like how the actual novel of Never Ending Story always has, well, that's a story for another time. That's a story
Right.
for another time.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Like, I
which is
don't
a-
need more details within this story, but I want to, related stories, in the same world.
Right. And something that I think that Lucasfilm's kind of doing right now, I am kind of curious to see about stories. They're now calling it the High Republic. You know, back in like the Republic's glory, like it when things were going well, kind of thing. I think it has an opportunity to be this really good mix of sci-fi but high fantasy, which is what Star Wars really is. It's fantasy, but it's in space. You know, it's got wizards. It's fantasy.
Mhm.
Don't ever try and tell me it's sci-fi. You know.
Yeah. It's fine, not sci.
Yeah. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's great, you know. But yeah, no, it's weird that I brought that up as a topic because I can't think of one like a series that I was like, I'd like to see expanded.
I thought of one.
Yep.
What's yours?
So I had to like scan my Goodreads to remember things I've read and be able to find something that doesn't already have this. So I mentioned this author a couple years ago. Her name is Meg Ellison, and she wrote a book called the Book of the Unnamed Midwife, which was basically this like catastrophic. Actually, come to think of it, it was some sort of a pandemic that hit at least all of the continental United States, theoretically globally. And it was a disease that mostly inflicted women and children. And so after like this big wave hits everyone, there's a scarcity of women and there's no real social structures or government anymore. And this woman who survived
Sounds terrible.
has to sort of like find her people and, survive a world where, women don't have power anymore because they are few and far between, and there are a lot more men, and, and they take what they want. And that eventually became a series, but the rest of the series expands on essentially her legacy, the things like the long game of this woman's life, like the long standing results of what she did with her life after that plague and how it affected the societies that were formed after her, to where she's basically a historical figure within this community anyway. And and in the following books, there's interactions with other communities and those other communities have different belief systems and just social structures, depending on what sort of things that they relied on when everything became so insular and tribal. And you only get to have some introduction to some of those other communities, but it's basically like visiting a completely different country or world because they're so different from one another. That is an example of I would love to see more world building outside of the things that the main characters get exposed to.
That'd be cool.
Sounds like a very like thought-provoking universe. And then there's one story told in this thought-provoking universe.
It gets pretty heavy. The first book, definitely a lot of like a heavy trigger warning for, assault and things like that. And then in the subsequent books, they touch on stuff like being transgender and non-binary, and basically every community can look at it in a different way. In one community, it can be like this heralded thing that is like really unique and special. But in another community, you could get stoned to death for it.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely a heavy series, and I warn anyone who wants to read it if they're sensitive to any of those topics. But it's really good writing.
Well, it won the Philip K. Dick in 2016.
Yep.
Cool. Gene in the chat mentions the Anita Blake series.
Anita Blake, I'm not familiar.
I would have.
Vampire Hunter?
Yeah, if they had made an Anita Blake television series instead of a True Blood television series, I'd have been all about that.
Yeah, I mean, it still could happen. She's got a novel coming out next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's so trashy.
It's super trashy.
So trashy, but it's so good.
Yeah. But I mean, so is True Blood.
Yeah, it was just like I had never read any of the True Blood. It just, I don't know. It was fun trash, but it's a lot of vampires and werewolves and sex with vampires and werewolves.
Yeah.
Lots Dude, I just rewatched the Twilight series.
Ooh.
Yeah, but Anita Blake's is actually sexy.
I have never read or watched any of Twilight, and I think I'm okay for never have.
I watched the second Twilight at a special screener. I got invited by the owner of the Roseway because for some reason, well, now that I think about it, because so much of it was filmed in the Northwest, the Portland chapter of like the Twilight fan club had won the exclusive like week before it hits National Theater screener, and the Roseway was the picked to host because they didn't want to have a huge screening. The Roseway sits 200 people or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was disturbing. Not for the content of the movie. It was disturbing to see a theater full of middle-aged moms. Like that's who was in that theater.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't teens. It was their moms. And just sounding like horny sailors every time Jacob took off his shirt. The character, by the way, who I believe is meant to be 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching it from like, they used to have a balcony space that at one time probably had seating. It didn't anymore, but you could still go up there if you knew the owner. And I was like, this is really awkward and uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
Wait, 16 in the second
Lautner,
movie?
right? Yeah.
Jake the werewolf, isn't he young?
Yeah, he's.
Well, they're all in high school.
Bella's supposed to be 17, and Bella is actually is 17. The Kristen Stewart was 17 in that filming. And then Edward Cullen is supposedly 119 years old or something. But
yeah,
I watched the first one because a friend coworker at the time literally begged me. I'm talking, please watch it with me. I just know that if you watch it, if you just give it a chance. No, it was already on video. She owned it and she begged me. I know if you watch it with me, you'll like it. Just please give it a chance. And I almost injured my eyes from rolling them so hard. It's so bad. It's so bad, and you will
So
never
bad.
talk me into watching one of the other ones.
So bad. We watch them very much as a let's watch this quarantine. Let's watch these terrible movies. The whole
Sure.
time I kept thinking to myself, The Matrix was made like 40 years before this movie, and it's so good, and this movie is so bad. Yeah. We watched them all just like back to back and just constantly like it was MST3K for 5 fucking movies. We just destroyed them every minute.
There are 5 movies in that
5.
series?
There's 5.
Yeah,
But there
because
were
they
only
broke.
3 books.
Yeah, the third was like book 1, book 2, book 3. I think book 4 was split into 2, part 1 and part 2.
Yeah,
It was crazy.
I just
New
can't
Dawn-
imagine
it
there
was like,
being enough
New Dawn
content for
Part
that.
1 and New Dawn
No,
Part 2.
the whole thing was
Oh.
like done after book 2. Book 2 is like you finish it, every plot twist is tied up, and there's no loose ends. It's the movie's over. And then you're like, wait, they're making 3 more. So they introduce new problems and then solve them. And then they introduce new problems and they solve them. And
As long as it keeps, squeezing out money for them, I guess.
Squeeze,
Well,
squeeze,
not anymore,
squeeze.
but I'm sure if they asked Kristen Stewart to do it now, she'd be like, "Fuck no."
yeah.
Well,
totally.
isn't Stephanie Meyer's writing it again, but from
Oh, that's right, from
But
the
from
vampires,
the
for the
vampires-
boyfriend's point of view.
yeah, from his
Oh my
point of view, not her
God.
point of view
Oh
anymore.
my
Wow.
fucking God.
I don't see them ever doing this for many reasons, but I would pay like real hard currency to watch that movie with a commentary by Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart. Like
Yeah.
just feed them a bottle of whiskey and
Current age, those current age
like right
actors.
now.
Yeah.
Right
They would.
now.
I think they would do that.
Oh, they would do that. They would do
yeah.
that.
He's
I
done
think
so,
I've
he's
seen
done
commentary
some-
that they both would like to just erase that part of their career.
well,
Yeah.
he's mentioned in a few interviews before where they've shown clips and he's been like, I don't remember what I was even doing here. I think I fell asleep during this take. He's like, yeah, no, look. He's like, I'm sleeping right there.
Yeah, it
Like
is
he-
bad. It is bad.
It's painfully bad.
It's if you approach it with a MST3K
mean,
perspective, then it's great fun.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing, is I was watching it next to like a genuine
Yeah.
fan
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and no one else. So it was only painful.
So bad.
If I was in a room of people who felt the same way I do,
Yeah.
I'm sure that I could make it into a very different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like-
I do recommend it under that circumstances if you really want
Oh my
to kill.
God. I'd feel so bad for that because I'll mock something with friends, but if I'm next to someone and like genuinely love something, I'll be like, just be quiet. Like, don't. let
I
them-
mean, like in my, I guess not my own defense, but like in transparency, I did like frequently groan and like tell her, I'm like, how can you like this? This is such drivel. What is wrong with you?
we
It's
all
terrible.
have our dribble that we like, so it's like,
It's terrible.
And
We
that's
all
fair.
have
I enjoyed True Blood. I think it was wonderful trash.
Mm-hmm.
But I can
Um,
recognize that it's trash.
sucking her stupid fairy vagina. Wasn't it?
That's actually where I stopped watching.
When she became a fairy
Yeah.
or whatever.
Not intentionally. It just happened that like when season 4 premiered, things changed in my life, and like, watching True Blood was not a priority.
Yeah. Yeah, but we all have movies that people are like, really? Like, you like that? Like, come on. You're like, yeah, I like it. Shut up. Leave me alone. Like me and Resident Evil movies. They're trash.
I would still rather watch Resident Evil, and I would enjoy a Resident Evil. Like genuinely, I can have a good time with that.
Yeah. God, this reminds me, like, the first time my sister ever saw This Island Earth was the Mystery Science Theater version, when they did Mystery
Oh.
Science Theater, the movie. And she just thought it was the funniest thing ever. Like, that was her first real exposure to Mystery Science Theater also. Like, she just loved it. Her and I will still quote that. But about a year later, she's staying with my grandparents for a weekend. And This Island Earth, not the Mystery Science Theater version, but like on AMC, This Island Earth pops on. And my grandpa forces her to sit in the TV room with him
Wow.
because it is his favorite sci-fi movie as a kid. He's like, they don't make wonderful science fiction like this anymore. It's just one. And the whole time my sister's like, God, I just gotta quit. I can't say it. And he's like, look at this scene here, how it was shot. It's so classy. And she's like, yeah, okay. So those things happen.
Yep.
Well, we should start to wrap up the show, but I think we wanted to share something that's happening again.
Oh yeah, let me get this information into
It's about Ted Wheeler, so get ready, Nat.
Oh, I'm ready. Yeah. The guy gets ratioed all the time. He's got a 4,000 ratio right now about this topic.
What's ratioed?
On Twitter, when you have more comments than likes.
Oh, I had no idea that was called.
Yeah, it's getting ratioed.
Oh.
You've never been ratioed, Aaron, because people like you.
Well, or they don't say anything if they don't. So.
Okay, so I'm probably gonna botch up like explaining the situation here, but I will do my best. There is a home on Mississippi Avenue here in Portland that happens to be house a Afro-Indigenous family. And today, Portland police were trying to enforce an eviction on that family and all persons in that house, despite the fact that there is still an active moratorium on evictions. And if sources that I saw are correct, the reason that this is happening is it's driven by essentially a corporate buyout of that block, presumably to build, more shitty condos and, bougie
that no one can afford,
restaurants and plant stores. Yeah, that no one actually who lives in that neighborhood now can afford.
They have actually owned the house, lived in the house for 60 years, and they still owe $100,000 on it. I think it was a reverse mortgage at some point. The neighboring lot, I believe, was all in sold for $10 million. So this family owes $100,000 on this property, and the neighboring property was a $10 million property. So it's kind of like not right.
That's pretty fucking insane.
Yeah.
And so one of our listeners, aka Sack in the chat, shared a link with us that I put in the YouTube chat now, and I'm sure we'll get this link up into our other sources after the show here. But that's a link that it kind of explains what the situation is in more detail, and it includes their call to action. I believe they're trying to not only raise funds, but I know that other people in the city have been actually calling for people to come down to that location and essentially help keep the cops away, like others have been doing throughout the course of the day, and just help protect this family until they can get things figured out, or until the cops fuck off and rot in a hole somewhere.
Yeah, it's actually illegal right now to evict anyone in Oregon.
Right, but that obviously didn't stop them from trying in the first place.
No.
So.
And I'm reading more. They were actually forbidden from trying to buy back their home when lots were sold in an auction, even though by law they are required to let them try to buy back their home. No, this is because someone's greasing Ted Wheeler's palms.
Many people, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, certainly.
Developers,
yeah.
But as become the motto for a lot of people in Portland is, you know what, fuck it, we police our own. So. If you wanna go out there with other Portlanders, or if you want to help financially, we'll drop the links for that.
Yeah, and we don't have enough time for it in the show, but I've got some thoughts on Deschutes beer right now too. But I'll stay quiet on that.
Okay.
It's tail.
Oh yeah, I'm curious.
They've been complaining about they're. Apparently, never mind. I don't want to get into it.
Oh, yeah, you're either going to say it or you're not going to say it.
No, I don't want to get into it because that's a whole nother show. Well,
Yep.
No, we'll bitch about it on Facebook.
Yeah, there you go. I got to do more research about it anyway.
All right. So that's redhousemississippi.com, everyone.
Do it. Check it out.
Be prepared for tear gas, though. It's going to get messy tonight.
Yeah, if you've got your block equipment, you probably want to bring that with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It'll be fun. They're going to gas every other person who lives in that neighborhood too.
Mm-hmm.
All those fancy condos next
people.
door. Yeah. See how that goes over. What was it today? They just realized, or they finally admitted that when the feds were here, they were using an actual gas that has been outlawed in war.
Yeah, HC gas, hexavalent chromium.
The green one.
Yeah.
Is that the one that made women spontaneously menstruate?
Tear gas will do that as well. This one has a really weird interaction with zinc, and you actually you die of zinc poisoning.
Jesus Christ.
Or the toxicity is from a zinc poisoning.
and it's gotten into some of our water systems.
Yeah, totally.
Super.
It is really green. I've seen it explode right in
It's
front
like
of me.
the color of your shirt.
It's like fucking
Yeah.
Wicked Witch of the West. It's like when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like if it wasn't deadly, it would be like
Right.
Sure.
perfect, like
It can be both.
Broadway green smoke color thing.
Yeah, I could be in awe of something that's utterly horrible.
Yeah, I was in awe of that when I first saw it.
Well, not the happiest note to end it on, but Nat, thanks for popping in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me as usual. And
Yeah. Any new ciders that are on the horizon that you can hint
no,
at?
we're moving. So everything.
you're moving, that's right, never
Down.
mind.
It's like just we're in sort of like sustainment mode, and that's why I'm not going to the Red House tonight. Because I've just work's been kicking my butt. So
Right.
Heaven forbid you take a night off, Nat.
to hang out with you guys,
Yep.
I'll do that.
Yay!
That'll be worth it.
It was good to see your face after this much time.
Yeah.
There's
y'all
still
too.
the Abbey Spice. Everyone should go drink the Abbey Spice.
Yes, we still have Abbey Spice and a little bit of cherry pie left. Yeah.
Drink Abbey Spice in moderation. It's much stronger than you think it is. So read the can.
Somewhere between 6.9 and 7.2, depending on which can you're looking at. So, yeah,
Depending on the bio.
right.
The next week, I think we're going to be joined by David Walker. So be good times.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I'm Aaron Duran.
I'm Claymore's butt.
And I'm Cable Hashitani.